Welcome back to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast. This is a place where we ignite your passion, turbocharge your success, and transform your thinking. I'm your host, Anthony Dahya, and today it's my absolute pleasure and privilege to welcome you all to this podcast interview. Today's special guest is a transformation coach, hypnotherapist, a master practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming, who has been a beacon of hope for women in midlife transition. Her journey into personal development began at 18, ignited by a deep-seated passion for growth and self-discovery. And despite facing a tumultuous period filled with personal and professional challenges, she emerged with a renewed sense of purpose and underlining belief in the power of dreams and action. Specializing in guiding women through middle essence, this guest combines her expertise in strategic coaching, NLP, clinical hypnotherapy to create transformative programs tailored to each individual. Her own story is a powerful narrative of choosing self, embracing authenticity, and relentlessly pursuing fulfillment. Today's guest is Melanie Pickett, who is here to inspire and share her insights and tips on using identity embodiment to overcome adversity, thrive through change, rewrite your story to become the person you aspire to be when you grow up. Welcome, Melanie, to the Champion Mindset Collective podcast.
Hi, Anthony. Thanks very much for that absolutely amazing introduction. I really appreciate it, and it's an honor to be here with you today.
It's a privilege to have you on this podcast. So there's so much to unpack here. Not a lot of people know about middle essence, and I couldn't even pronounce the word, to be honest. And so I'd love for you to explain what it is and why you're so focused on it.
Sure. It was something that I hadn't heard of until quite recently either, although the experiences around it I had experienced. And I, as you do when you're Googling and all that sort of thing, I found this word, middle essence. And it is actually something that was first mentioned in the 1970s by a psychologist who was describing midlife, but the opportunities really that we have around midlife now that we have longevity, now that we're not finishing our lives when we're turning 50, we're lasting to 70, 80, 90 or more if we're lucky and healthy. And so there's this new space that we're in now where it's not just about when we are young and we're having adolescence, but now we have this opportunity to change and grow in a different way in midlife. And therefore, they've called it middle essence. And there's a number of sort of you can compare it that our hormones are changing. We are still trying to work out what we want to when we grow up most of the time, right? Like we thought we had it, and now we've realized, actually I don't really have what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah.
There's uncertainty around everything. There's a massive amount of change that is available to us and required if we want to get where we want to go. I think the brilliance of middle essence is that we have all this knowledge and wisdom and resources and ability to get the support now that we didn't have when we were in an adolescence. And this is our time. Not only within that, we also now have a drive, a motivation that we didn't have before, because hey, our lives are halfway over. Like, that's it. We've got to get started now, or we might not be able to get done what we want to do. And so we have this strong sense of urgency that we don't get when we're at that age. We have that youthful impetuousness, and we probably have a bit more energy, But now with this wisdom and understanding and this knowledge of being in midlife, of knowing where we're at and that we're halfway through and this is what's happened with our life so far, and the opportunity to evaluate and work out where we want to go from here, the urgency is something that is not going to dissipate. So it's a wonderful time for us to begin and to see our vision of the future through, because that drive is it's not going to go away.
No, absolutely. Yeah. So when does midlife actually start?
Usually around about 40, they sort of say around the 40s and going through till the 60s, sometimes 70s now. So yeah. And
so it's between 40s and 60s. So it's like a 20-year period that you're going through of midlife.
Yeah, give or take 5 or 10, 5 years. It depends on the person. And I think it does happen with the hormones, but it's also about the stage of life that you're at. Perhaps you've had a family, your kids have moved out, and then there's this opportunity for you to reevaluate and you're feeling better. The other thing about midlife, I suppose, is that we have this thing, midlife crisis, how everyone always talks about that, right? Okay. So midlife crisis is just like this. It's on steroids of not middle essence, but what it's doing is it's saying to you, wake up, this is it. You've got this opportunity. That's all you've got. Think about it now. And at that time, what we have is either the opportunity to just give in to what we would normally do to suppress our feelings and control ourselves so that we stay on par with the expectations of what people or ourselves have thought until now about our lives. And we can just kind of stop there and just soothe ourselves and go back down into being ordinary and having our lives the way they were.
So do you think like it's like coming to a realization, the results you've been getting haven't really got you where you want it to be, and you've now come to this realization, which is the crisis, as we say?
Well, I think the crisis is actually just before that. You see, because you can stifle it and it can just end up that you're stagnating and that's it. You just don't grow from here. Whereas when you start to come to terms with your emotions and your feelings, it's what happens after that that becomes the motivation, the new part of you, the new life, the changing of perspective and working out what you want to do and be. And that's when you're getting that really strong growth and learnings from that. So I would say midlife crisis comes first. Or if you're in tune with yourself, it might be not so dramatic on the external side of things. It might actually be sort of a more internal based thing, but you will still feel this sense of crisis that is happening. And that's when you have your options available to you for what you want to do.
Yeah, I've definitely been through that, I think. Well, I'm in my 50s now, so
Me too.
Yeah. So you mentioned between 40 and 60, so I've only got 7 years left till I'm 60. So but so look, your personal growth journey started at 18. I'd like to hear a little bit about that part of your journey from 18 to, you would have gone through this middle essence as well. And what was it like? What did you go through? What were the learnings? What were the what are things that people can relate to and go, hey, I went through that, or yes, I'm going through that right now.
Okay, so if we're talking about I'm going to, so Anthony, just to clarify what you're asking for here, is it about my growth journey or about my
Yes.
experience with middle
Yes.
essence? My
Yeah.
growth.
So
Okay.
what we'd like to hear is a little about your personal growth journey from 18. Summarize your life story,
Yeah.
and then tell us a little bit about your the middle essence, or the middle life that you went
No
through,
problem.
and what was it like? And yeah.
Okay. So the reason why I have put 18 as the starting point for this is because up until then, I had never seen or read a self-development book. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know it was possible. I thought that we all were the way we were, that some people were just lucky because they were just better than other people. And so they just got the things because everything came easy to them. This is what they did. It was just normal for them. And so when my parents, would you believe they joined Amway? And honestly, I will be forever grateful because they started reading self-development books. And I ended up reading Unlimited Power by Tony Robbins, the great Tony Robbins. And it was revelationary, like the most amazing thing in the world to think that these changes were possible. And I was deeply fascinated. I loved the ideas behind it and the deeper understanding it gave me of people and the way that we could work with our brains. We didn't have to fight against ourselves. It was about improving ourselves and growing and learning, and through that application of different techniques, being able to be that person that we wanted to be and to grow more. And so from then on, I was just an avid reader, and I just wanted to learn all the time about all of this information. And so that was my hobby. And what I've done pretty much all my life is to go through all the different courses and go and see these great people and read and learn. And throughout this time, there was also a time where I started realizing that the satisfaction that I had for helping people was just really huge. But I was working in jobs that, unfortunately, while there was a small part of it which was really helping those people and satisfying, the majority of it wasn't. And there were they gave me a lot of experiences and qualifications. Like I'm a trainer, I am a massage therapist, very broad. I'm a contract manager. However, I wasn't satisfied and comfortable within that time. We might talk a bit more about that if we have time later. And I also had some personal things happening that weren't working for me. And I had a massive revelation about 7 years ago that if I didn't make some changes now, that I wasn't going to be around, because I had no energy. I was giving all of my energy to everyone else. I was so apathetic about my life. I didn't care, whether there was no joy, there was no spark, there was no inspiration. And I really did think, if I don't make a change now, if I don't do this, then I'm going to die. I will just fade. I fade away and I will die. And at the same time, I had a very great friend of mine who's my bestie say to me, well, you've said this before, you've talked about this before, and you're just on a hamster wheel and you're just hamster wheeling around, and you say it in a different way with different words, but you're not actually doing anything different. You just like think you are and go about comforting yourself, but not actually making any real change. And it was at that time that I was like, oh, she can't be right. And then I really started thinking about it. I'm like, oh my God, here I was thinking that I was making these changes because I would tweak things and I would go to a course and then I'd say stuff and do it, but I wasn't actually making the real change. I wasn't taking those really big, strong actions that you need to take to affect proper change. And I wasn't properly applying the knowledge that I had from all these wonderful people. And so I took drastic action. And from that, I spent the next 5 years, around about 5 years, doing drastic changes and supporting myself through that and finding the right help to encourage me to do that. An example of a drastic change was that I decided that I was not able to lose weight on my own and that I needed a tool to help me. And so I got a gastric sleeve. And that was in April 2017. And I was, my biggest recorded weight, I was 128 kilos. So I've lost around about 50 kilos and I've managed to keep it off. Yeah.
Well, you're looking amazing.
Thank you. I definitely feel I am a different person. I'm completely different to that person.
Absolutely.
And it's not about, the changes were not just externally, which I mean everybody sees, and
it's internal as well.
Yeah, they're internal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had to have that mindset that I am now that person who doesn't eat to help my emotions.
Yeah.
That person who does these things to nourish myself and be healthy, not the other. And I will talk a little bit more about identity and how important I feel it is in making changes for ourselves. But really, yeah, everything has had, while it's had a physical change, and not just from the weight loss, but also with my self-care regime and how I've looked at myself now versus previously, there's always an internal change as well as the external change that you see.
Yeah. Well, I believe that all change starts from inside.
Yeah.
You've got to change yourself inside before the external can change. Like if you, like yourself, you wanted to get fitter and be healthy and so on. If you hadn't had that mindset change or the internal change, then you wouldn't have gone to that step, And so I believe that it all starts internally. Yeah, absolutely. It then reflects who you are as a person on the outside.
Absolutely. And look, it was about, I've been doing this work and I've been working very hard on, I've learned to embrace the change and the struggle as the reward, because I now know that when I go through this, I'm going to experience something amazing at the end. And so that's super cool. I really love that. With regards to middle essence, hey, this all happened just in my early 40s. So I had this realization, and I have the strong desire that I want to create a legacy, and I want to be a person of impact and influence in a positive way to as many people as I possibly can.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I was still working in a job that wasn't right for me. And then I had a health issue that ended me up in hospital, actually. And it was then that I knew that it was time for my next drastic change, because I realized that in my work environment, I was still being someone who I'm not. And I was forcing myself into a place that is not right for me. And my body was reacting to it and telling me, hey, this is not cool. You've been doing this for 20 years. This is not working. You want to keep going, or you want to actually live your life properly? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I made some other drastic changes. I was like, well, where do I belong with work? How can I sustain myself and have a wonderful life and great experiences and contribute to society and feel good about myself? And of course, I went back to when I was 18 and Tony Robbins, and I just thought, well, why not? Like, I have a passion for helping people. I have a lot of this knowledge. I have an understanding of what it's like to be in this environment and this age and go through these changes and even thrive through these changes. And I would love to help other people to do that. And so then I went and did some further study, because I want to make sure that I have really good foundational tools to help everybody with. It's not just about the experience, which I think adds a huge, wonderful dimension and is very necessary when it comes to working with people. But it's also that then having the expert tools in which to make everything as effective as possible and to be able to change things as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's
it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, some of that was personal stuff, so I really acknowledge you for sharing that. Thank you. So facing challenges. So you've gone through tough times personally and professionally. How did these challenges like change the way you coach others?
Okay, so what I'd like to do with this first is to explain something you probably know about already, but I find absolutely fascinating, and it's been really great with explaining things to my clients in this way. If we look at it, our experiences of our life and the way that we have interpreted things have meant that we have a particular map of reality, right? So what I mean by that is, when we think about maps, we've got the depth of the terrain. Is it a hill? Is it a mountain? Is there a hole? So is it grass? Is it dirt? Is it clay? Whatever. So we've got all this detail and this depth that we can look at within a map. But then we also have the perspective the other way, with the broadness of the map, right? But the map stops where the map stops. So our perception and understanding of the world is based on our map of reality. So until something changes, right, we can't change, because we don't get the other piece of the map to know where we go next, or how we can go, or even how we can make a decision that is different, because we haven't had that in the map before. So sometimes we can just forge ahead on our own in some way that it's very different to us. We don't really, and we can push, and then our map will change, or something happens to us and then we have to react, and then that will change our map as well. The other way to do it is to have somebody who's been through experiences that we're coming through now, and they already see the way forward. They can already, but they have the similar terrain to you, but then they have more of the map. And I am able to show people more of the map and give them a different perspective on their life and open this up to them and make it something that, you know, maybe they would have realized themselves anyway, but having somebody to support you and to talk you through these things and allow you to give you that processing time, and also to provide you with tools that are going to help you clear anything that's blocking you and identifying barriers and getting rid of those. It just makes everything faster. Like what I've done in 7 years, people could do in a year, 2 years. And it really just depends on how effective you are and how much you're willing to work for it and what you want to do. And having a coach such as myself who has had that sort of experience, and I have a broader map. My map's got more detail in this area, and it's broader perspective. Then this is why it's good to have me, because I can make everything fast track for you, more effective. And also, like, to make it smoother, you know. We struggle a bit with it, but we don't have to suffer. We don't have to suffer through the change. And this is what I want to tell everyone. This is, you don't have to. It's go and get the support and help and the proper resources to get you through this in the best way possible. Hey, we are in our 40s and 50s. We don't want camping anymore. We want glamping. Let's
absolutely. The
premium version of things.
So in your coaching, you talk about identity embodiment. What does that actually mean, and how does it help people, especially women, in the middle of their life?
So when I talked to you before about my weight and everything, I'm going back to that because it's a really great example of identity embodiment, not in the sense of, oh, that was a great thing to do for your life, but in the sense that it really demonstrates what it's like to embody something. So when I was younger, a person close to me had said that a couple of things about my weight, such as I was a fat slob and quite a few other things. That they were trying their best to motivate me, and their previous things hadn't worked, so they thought they would try this. But it was the 1970s. That's the sort of thing that happened. But what was very interesting about that was I put in my head what that person was. And when I got to 7 years ago in 2017, I realized that I had spent all this time up until then making that person come true. And I was completely blown. I was just like, oh my God. And I can remember times when I was like, well, I'm just a big fat pig, therefore I'm going to eat all this and I'm going to eat that. And, you know, it was insidious? Yeah, good word. Anyway, it just crept in, and it was just at that point I was like, oh my God, I've had this identity, which that person I know didn't want me to have, but I took it on board. I used that and made it into this thing, this expectation that I needed to become, and just went with it. And oh my God, you know, my body took this long to get to here because it wasn't ready for it. And yet I created this. And then I thought, well, if I create that, then maybe I can create other things for myself that are more positive. Maybe I can be somebody else.
You gave it meaning. Someone said something, you gave it meaning, and you took on that meaning. And
That's
absolutely.
right.
we
Yeah,
have the power to create positive things. And yeah,
absolutely.
I'm a big believer in self-talk and the
Yeah.
power of what we say in our language. Yeah.
And so part of identity embodiment is that where
Mm.
we choose who we want to become. And then there's some other really cool things that we can do with it as well, where we can pull ourselves into the perspective of either another person or our future self, which is really cool. And I'm actually, if you're still right to do it in a little bit, perhaps we could have a go of the
Absolutely.
future
Yeah.
one. Okay, that would be super good. I was going to say, so with the identity embodiment, I think the thing that is key with ourselves and change and our identity is that we're pretty amazing, right? Like you would, I'm sure you know the term metacognition, but for those people that are listening in that might need a reminder, although I know we're mostly coaches here, metacognition is the act of thinking about our thinking. And so what that does for us is it demonstrates that we are not our thoughts. And also we are not our emotions. So we are this being that experiences these different things. So therefore, we are in control of that and we can change them. So
Absolutely.
that is just like the most super amazing thing ever to have,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I think when we keep that close to us and we understand that, then we're able to move on and make choices to embody the person that we want to become.
Yeah.
And so this is the main part of the identity embodiment process. Yeah.
And it's so important, isn't it, to really really do that and embody, your identity and really understand who you are and who you can become. And yeah, that's amazing. Okay, so let's explore a little bit around the tools, like the methodologies that you use around NLP and hypnotherapy. So how does NLP, or for the people that don't know what that acronym means, it means neuro-linguistic programming, and hypnotherapy help people change their mindset or their identity?
So the super cool thing about NLP and hypnotherapy is that they work really, really well together. And so neuro-linguistic programming is, so neuro, your brain, linguistic, the way in which you use your language.
Language, yep.
Programming is really like the patterns and the way in which we utilize that for all of our thoughts and habits and processes. Now, by using neuro-linguistic programming, I've really simplified it, but there's many aspects to it which allow me to help work with you to identify patterns and behaviors that you want or you don't want, to break patterns, to create new patterns. And when I say patterns, it's like patterns of behavior. So do you want this habit? Do you not want to feel this way? If you really like this type of food, but you don't want to really like it anymore, and you've got this craving all the time, can we use different patterns, different ways of your thinking to change how you feel about that particular thing? And yeah, we can. I mean, really great example of that, of breaking a pattern, if it's not too gross, like, okay, if you have something and it tastes great, you love the food, it's your favorite food, you get food poisoning from it. You're tasting that meal over again in a very bad situation. often your brain says to you next time you smell that food, no, I don't like
Yeah.
this, right?
Yeah.
So that's just a very simple way of explaining, like, breaking a pattern. And the hypnotherapy, I mean, it can seem so subtle and yet so strongly effective, where we're able to utilize and really connect our conscious mind with our subconscious mind. And so our conscious mind is directing us to say, we want this, we know it'll be good for us. Our subconscious mind is the part of us that is like this massive warehouse of any information that we've ever experienced. And of course, we can't keep it all in our conscious mind. We need to have that focus. So we have that subconscious, which then is that layer which also protects us and looks after us. So it has the automated responses in it. It has like breathing, for example, or fight or flight. And it also has in it other protective mechanisms, such as your triggers that you have, and habits that you create. And the reason why I talk about the habits that you create with it is that these are things that then your conscious brain doesn't have to think about. And so it relieves you of a load that you would have, a cognitive load that you would have otherwise. Yeah. So with that, it means that we start to connect that conscious mind to the subconscious more, and we can start to either remove some of the triggers, we can replace some habits by speaking with the subconscious and working in that way as well, rather than it just all being a conscious effort where you feel like you're pushing all the time and there's this huge cognitive load on you and you've got to focus on everything. And so the hypnosis, it kind of balances out and sort of helps smooth everything down. And we have the conscious side of it with the NLP, where we can start focusing on that in our strategies. And when we incorporate both of them together, it's making a super effective way to create the change that we want, but it's happening in a smoother, less stressful way with more of a balance to it that we wouldn't have otherwise.
Right. Yeah.
And
wow.
And I've also got like there's so many different tools and resources that we can use. They're the key ones. I've also got thought field therapy, which I work with as well. So I think that there's a number of different ways and tools and that you can do to fix anything. But the more that you have available to you and the more powerful they are, then the better it is for my clients, the better it is for everybody. So that's
great. Thank you. That's a really good explanation. It was simplified in a really good, simple way for people to understand there. So when you make personalized programs for your clients, how do you make sure that your coaching programs fits each client's needs?
Yeah, sure. So my current package is the Fearless Femme, and I like to describe it as a 3-month choose your own adventure, because really 3 months we can focus on one big thing in that time. We can't sort of do everything as much as I'd want to. And so what we do is we work together, we sit down, we have a discussion about let's say it's you, what your goals would be, what you're finding is, we work out what the thing is that is key, that is holding you back from a number of all the other things that you want to do in your life. So we we work to agree on the most effective way to utilize your time and which thing is going to take out one of those legs for you, so you can get everything started and everything starts to flow a lot more. So from the very start, it is personalized. The focus is on what you need, what's most effective for you. And then we also, I tailor, I want to say we, it's just me, hey. Plans, right? I suppose we, as in myself and the client, I like to think of us as a team.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely. It is a team effort, isn't it? With the client.
Yeah, 100%. That I can help, but I'm not the one doing it. That people
Well, yeah,
have
you're guiding them, right? You're guiding them, and they're doing the work. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So as we're going through that work, I'm going to tailor each experience according to what's happening, where the transition points are, if there's a blockage, if there is a need for that person to have a bit more integration with their subconscious. I'll maybe add in a little bit more work with the hypnotherapy for them for that particular day. It really is, while our focus is always on that goal and to be as effective as possible, to be as effective as possible within this theme that we've got for that 3 months, I am watching and looking at everything that is happening for my client, and I'm making sure that I'm changing my tools and using what's necessary to be effective at every single session, and to really help those people, my people during those times. So it is all 100% focused on them, tailored to them, and they're getting all my expertise and focus during that time. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great. Yeah, and the next thing I'd like to ask you is around being true to yourself. Like, you have a strong story about choosing your own path and finding happiness. What advice would you have for listeners about being true to themselves?
Honestly, when you will never regret it. You will never ever regret being and becoming yourself and just allowing yourself to be. It's like when you're not being true to yourself, it's like wearing a whole heap of shapewear that is extra tight on you. And you know you don't fit, you know it doesn't feel right, you're self-conscious about it. There's a part of you that always knows that you're not fitting, that it's not right, and you feel like you're squashing yourself into a space that is way small, like you don't have the right to allow yourself to expand, and that you're just like all squished. So when you cut that shapewear away, because there's no way you can get it off, like it's so tight, the sense of freedom, the sense of giving yourself permission to own your space, it is so rewarding. It is unlike anything you've ever experienced before. And you know what? You're halfway through your life. Do you really want to be stuck in shapewear for the rest of your life, or do you want to be comfortable in who you are and actually live your life as yourself? Can you imagine being yourself?
Yeah. Be amazing. It's such a transformation, letting go of things that are no longer you, and becoming this person, becoming a version of yourself that's
it's only
it's true.
And you're right, it is. Once you are true to yourself and you're being yourself, this is when you have the chance to self-actualize and start to reach your potential. And everything that you do until then is just a facade. And so the sooner you get over that and be yourself, the sooner you can start reaching towards your potential.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been through that journey since last year. I was a people pleaser and doing lots of different things that wasn't me.
Yeah.
But my experiences in the past caused me to be someone who I wasn't really myself. And once I started to let go of that stuff and really truly be myself, and really truly start to understand who I am, it's completely transformed who I am and who I am becoming.
And how does it feel?
It feels amazing. It's like that. Yeah, it's like you get a sense of it's exciting. It's like, wow, I've got so much more I can do. Whereas and also the more you go on this journey, things that used to bother you are no longer things that bother you, because you just you've learned to deal with them in a more constructive way or positive way rather than a dysfunctional way.
Yeah.
So you become more functional as a human being and start being the person you were meant to be, than being someone that you're not meant to be. And I truly believe that each one of us are destined for greatness. Really, the more we let go, the more we become curious about who we can become, and start pursuing that. As I say, the world is your oyster.
Yeah, I agree.
And I really love this quote by Marilyn Monroe. People say the sky is the limit. Well, actually, the sky is not the limit. It's actually your mind. Your mind is the limit.
Yeah.
And often it's your mind that limits you from moving forward. And it's about becoming limitless, where you're striving towards being limitless, where once you've achieved one thing, then you go to the next, because at the peak of every mountain, there's a base of another mountain to climb. And so it's a constant, continuous journey, and we'll never get there, because it's a continuous journey in life to keep becoming the better version of yourself.
One of my mentors, Alistair Horscroft from the Mind Academy, he's amazing, great teacher, and he says that he has this great thing where he says you should never compete against other people. It should always be that you're competing against your potential, your future self, so that you're always striving and reaching, and you're never going to reach your potential, because as you reach what used to be your potential, now it's growing again, and now you have more and more. But
exactly,
it's absolutely fantastic to think of it in that way. I think that for me, thinking about it in that way stops me from feeling tired, like just by thinking, oh my God, we're continually doing stuff all the time. No, we're just growing and we're becoming and we're reaching our potential, and it's just this beautiful experience that is our life. There is no end to that, but it's okay.
I think it's a daily thing. I think every day you're reaching a potential. Every week you're reaching a potential. And if you do 1% better today, then in a year you're 365% better than you were a year ago. So
and how incredible is that? It doesn't have to be a huge thing. It's just taking the steps and applying the knowledge.
Do you think people get overwhelmed by the potential, and it's so
I think that when we've been programming ourselves to be a certain way, to be thought of a certain way or whatever, and I think we get to this stage in life where we've cut ourselves off from thinking about certain things, like what we could be and how amazing our life could be, because we're being realistic, or we're doing the sensible thing, or we're living on other people or society's expectations. It's not, and to do that, we have to cut ourselves off from different parts of ourselves.
Yeah.
And having that ability to dream again is also something that I'm really grateful for.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. There you go. Okay. So I think it's time to do a little demonstration, an exercise. You mentioned the quick exercise around identity and embodiment. So can we try that exercise now?
Yeah. And so keeping in mind, this is just one of the types of things that we can do within this. There's a lot to do with this. But one of the great things that we can do with it is we can help make decisions by using one of these identity embodiment processes. So do you have something that you need to make a decision on at the moment?
Yeah, well, I'm at a phase where I'm wanting to do public speaking next year. So podcasting is something that I've started, and next year I want to get into public speaking and really going and influencing. One of my things that are on my heart is around going into schools and doing motivational speaking and so on, but also in the technology space and being an influencer in that space around mindset. That's one of the things that's on my mind at the moment around how am I going to do that, and what are the steps I need to take.
It's more about, so you've made the decision that that's what you would like to do, but you would like to have insight in how you would go about doing
correct.
that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Super. So there's a couple of different ways, like I'll talk you through some of the processes here. So there's a couple of different ways we could do this. We could embody other, like, do you have a really good idea? Do you have a bit of a feel for what it would be that you would be like as this speaker? Are you still unsure of that, or are you relatively comfortable with a future vision of what you would be like?
I've actually had about 5 years ago, I had a vision of me standing on a stage with other speakers, speaking to thousands of people. And my aspiration is to become an international speaker. And you've got to start somewhere.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so do you have a really good sense of that future you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I can see myself. I can feel myself. I can really sense myself doing that. Yeah.
All right. So this is fabulous. And so we're going to run with that. If there was a client who was not, so just for those people who might like to do this at the same time and have something that they want to get a different perspective on as well. So I'll just talk you through. So if you don't have a really good idea of what your vision of you in the future is, you don't know how you would feel, or you need to still build it out a bit. The other thing you can do, instead of this process embodying your future self, is that you can also embody other speakers. So find Tony Robbins, for example. You could embody Tony Robbins instead, and then get the perspective from Tony's side of things. You could do Mel Robbins. So it's all about the Robinses today, actually. But
They're not related, though, I don't think.
They're related at all, but I love it. Oh. Yeah. So there's various ways in which we can use this. So if you're out there and you're having a go of this and you don't have a really good idea of your own version of your future self, then you can always start with the greats and then build from there. So
I do have some greats who are, or some people who are influencing me. So I have some. So who I'm wanting to become is a combination of lots of different people. Yeah.
And I love that. And it seems to me, though, that you've gone past that process where you're building from using those, and you've actually built out your future self vision already based on all those. So you're actually a lot of steps ahead of a lot of people, which is great. It makes it nice and easy for me for this process.
That's good.
So what we're going to do is I'm just going to get you to take a nice deep breath in and then let it out. That's it. Okay, fantastic. So what we're doing here is we're just getting a little bit more grounded, a little bit calm, and just centering ourselves. Because what we're going to do now is I want you to just get, if future you was in another space besides your body now, just point, just get a sense of future you and just point to where that would be. Okay. So from now on, just imagine that that's where future you is. Okay. And so just turn and have a look at future you and get a really good feel. Just look, see how that future person is standing, how they are breathing, where their hands are, what their posture is like, maybe what clothes they're wearing. Yeah. Now just get a sense of what they might be thinking of, what their mindset might be like. Okay. And so I haven't asked you to embody them immediately yet, because we want to get a really good feel for them being there with you. Now, ordinarily, there's two different ways that we can do this. One that's really lovely is that we can actually physically move into that space where that person is. And this really helps with the whole physiological change that you have that happens when you're really starting to embody that future you. Because we're here and it's you're just sitting down in the podcast, I don't want to move you too much. So I invite you to just close your eyes, knowing that that person is next to you right now, and just see your consciousness as moving into that person, into the future you. Whoosh, there you are. And you're just sitting in there and you're just settling in like you're in a new lot of clothes almost. And just get a sense of, again, their posture, how they're feeling about themselves. That's it. That's good. Feeling those different attitudes that you have now, the knowledge, the experience that you have, that comfort from being able to speak in public, the knowledge that you are providing this service to people, that you're reaching worldwide. Just really feel that strength, that confidence, knowing that you've had all these experiences that have brought you up to this point and you have achieved, you have succeeded in this. That's fabulous. And now just get a sense of what that means, what that means to you as this person, as this future Anthony, this speaker. See if there is anything that this person would have done differently, knowing that the success is there. And just feeling into that. And just getting an understanding of the perspective of what it's like wearing those clothes, walking that way. The mindset that is needed to be that way. Okay. And when you feel like you've been fully immersed and you really understand and feel, deeply sense that future version of you, I want you to take all of that and pull it into you as you move back your consciousness into you, current you, as we're doing this podcast. And now retaining all that information, the insight, that sense of who that person is and how they came about that. And when you're ready, just take a nice deep breath, let it out, and open your eyes. Okay. How are you feeling?
Great.
Yeah.
Feel great. Yeah.
Good. And so now with this understanding and that sense of who that future you is, does that help to give you a different insight into what it might be that you need to focus on? Or yeah.
One of the things I got was continuing to build my confidence in speaking, and also networking. So getting more confidence into getting into networking with people, with businesses, with things like clubs and so on. What I saw was my future self standing on a stage, quite a large stage, in a suit. Posture was very, upright, very confident.
Yeah.
And speaking out, and the hands were like right here.
Yeah.
And I also saw a beam of light right around myself, kind of
Yeah.
illuminating out. Yeah. So, yeah, amazing.
Yeah. And was there anything that was a bit of a surprise to you about what you noticed?
I don't think. I think the whole posture thing was a big thing. Actually, that's something that I've been very conscious about lately. I'm currently going through a bit of shoulder pain and stuff. Just had an ultrasound before this podcast, and I've got a little tear in my tendon. So, and it's also like a lot of it is about posture. So that's something that's very conscious on my mind at the moment, was the whole posture thing. And funny enough, my future self is standing on stage with chest out posture, arms out. So, so it's telling me that I need to, I've got to make sure that I am confident in myself, and right now start to learn that muscle, and start speaking, and building networks. And the funny thing is, years ago, I wasn't very good at speaking at all. Like, you couldn't even understand what I was saying half the time. And it's through singing and things like that, and I did a little bit of acting and stuff as well. That's where I was able to start to be a bit more confident in the way I spoke, So these podcasts is a great way for me to
Yeah,
actually
absolutely.
exercise that. But yeah, I could see myself transitioning into that person in the future and becoming the version of myself that is going to be way more confident. Is going to be able to um, deliver messages that's going to touch thousands of people in a very positive way. Yeah,
That's great. Now I'm
yeah,
going to take it a step further than that.
yeah,
So when you were embodying your future confident self, there was that change in physiology. There was this smile that you really had, like I could just see you lighting up and just
yeah,
feeling that energy, right?
yeah,
So you have that now. You can
yeah,
get that now.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I'm challenging you that the next time you're doing speaking, that you embody that and
yeah,
bring it on with you now. There is no reason why you can't use that future self now.
yeah, absolutely. Challenge accepted.
Excellent.
I never back down from a challenge.
So go through the same process again, really step into that, really pull that quality into you and know
Yeah,
that you already have that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank
All
you for
right.
that.
I'd really love to hear some feedback on that too.
Yeah, yeah, you will.
Yeah.
All right, let's carry on. So overcoming hard times with the new identity. So how has changing people's identity helped your clients get through tough times and make those changes in their lives?
I think I mentioned, well, for a start, perspective change, which
Mm,
is absolutely awesome. But I also mentioned that reduction in cognitive load.
mm,
And when we take on an identity, it is so good at helping us to just cancel out all the extra noise that is there.
mm,
So
mm,
we are this person.
mm,
When you say I'm a person who eats healthy food, then
mm,
it's not, oh, I shouldn't have this. Oh, we'll just have a little bit of that. Because you're either a person who says, I'll just have a little bit of that, or
mm.
a person who goes, thank you, but I don't need that. I won't have that right now. Right?
Yeah,
And so the fact that you've made that decision to be that person takes away everything else. You don't need to
yeah,
worry about making that decision and having to decide over and over again, oh no thank you, oh no thank you.
mm, mm.
It's just a non-event.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
that's it.
yeah, yeah, cool. All righty. So the last question before we end, and I have 5 quick fire questions after this, which I'm going to ask you. But the last thing I want to talk about is changing your life story. So, what would you say to someone who wants to change their life story and the become who they really want to become?
Well, for a start, I am super excited for you. And you've got a wild ride,
Yeah,
and change, especially worthwhile change, is usually very scary. But
yeah,
it's once you get through it, you will just be so happy that you've done that for yourself.
mm,
So just embrace the struggle of the change. And you know what? Get sensible, get the resources that you need, get the support that you need, but you can do this and you can make it into what you want for your life and just go for it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. So those of you listening, just embrace exactly what Mel said there. Yeah. Cool. All right. So 5 quick fire questions we're gonna quickly go through.
Okay.
What is one message you would like to share with the world?
Now is the time. This
Hmm.
is your moment. It doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter where you're in life. If you're ready to make those changes and you know that you want to thrive in life and that you want to have be true to yourself, go out and do it. Do it now.
Mm,
Now.
absolutely. Seize the moment. Do it now.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
You'll never have a better opportunity than now.
No, well, yeah, no, because once today's gone, time is currency, right?
And it's not promised either,
No, and once time's gone, yeah, absolutely, we could not wake up tomorrow. So
right.
yeah, make sure.
And I mean, sometimes it seems a bit sad and morbid to say that, but I mean, we are midlife. I've lost a couple of friends, and people very close to me, and it's not promised. So, do you really want to wait? Like, really? You want to have an unfulfilled life?
Yeah.
And you could just change it now?
Yeah. I heard Steve Harvey say, the fact that you wake up the next morning means that God has got, or whatever faith you believe in, God, universe, is that you've been given another day to make a difference. And what are you going to do with that? And it's not, a lot of people go through like, oh, I've got to do this. Well, no, you don't got to do this. You get to do this. So, really, if it's your passion, you would do it. You wouldn't think of it like, oh, I've got to do this. You would just do it. And that's great advice. Thank you. How do you define success, and has that definition changed over time for you?
Yeah. It changes all the time. It used to be that success for me was an external thing. So it would be living in a big house, having a really nice car, going on trips all the time. And while I still think those things are great, don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna say no to any of that. But to me, the real success is an internal thing. So am I growing? Am I learning? Am I being true to myself? And that's am I joyful in my life? Am I giving and creating joy? Am I making the ripples of positive effect that I want to do to create my legacy? That's my main thing at the moment. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Who has been your greatest inspiration and why?
I can't pick a particular person. I don't know. I think that there are aspects of many people that have inspired me and continue to inspire me. And I think that's the most amazing thing, is that there's so many amazing people out in the world that I haven't even met that are going to inspire me later on. So
absolutely. Yeah, we do. They go every day. You've inspired me through this podcast. And every day we're being inspired by other people. Absolutely. What is something that you believe in that others may disagree with?
You should always put your self-care and nourishment before anyone else. 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. Last question. So if you could go back to the younger Melanie self, what's one piece of advice you would give yourself, and what would it be?
This is hard because there's so much I'd like to share. I think the key thing that the younger me would need to understand is that it's okay to be you. You don't have to be like everyone else. And if I could expand on that, I would say that just because you're not good at the same things as everyone else doesn't mean that you don't belong or have amazing things that you can contribute differently.
Yeah.
Go with that. Go with yourself.
Go with yourself. Absolutely. Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Melanie, for joining us on this Champion Mindset Collective podcast. I'd like to get you back at some point, and I'm sure you've got so much more to talk about. So I'd like to see what else we can explore in another podcast.
Thank you. That would be great. And look, if anyone's interested in finding out a little bit more about the type of work I do, I've got a fabulous Facebook group that people can join now. And in early January, I'm actually starting a Change Your Life challenge, which will be free to my Facebook group members, and it's going to have all sorts of cool stuff in it. I'm building it at the moment, so it's a little quiet in there, but be an early adopter, get in now, and then you'll be ready to start as soon as it's ready. There's going to be online e-learning, there's going to be manuals and resources, and weekly live Q&A that you'll be able to attend and ask lots of questions. So that is free Change Your Life challenge. You should be able to find it under that. So
sounds exciting. And where would they find that challenge? In the group?
So just if you go into Facebook and search for free Change Your Life challenge as one word, and you should be able to find that. But can we maybe put the link in?
Absolutely.
Well?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We'll have a link to your Facebook page. We'll have a link to your group page and the challenge.
Brilliant.
And any other things like websites and so on. So yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. I really, really appreciate it, your time, and it's been great chatting with you, and I've learned a lot, and yeah, I've even got some insight out of my future self. So I'm excited about that.
Lovely.
So thank you very much, and have an amazing day. And for the listeners and viewers, if you haven't already subscribed or followed this podcast, please click the follow button, and share this with your friends and family, because you don't know what one of your friends or family could benefit from this. And please connect with Melissa. Melanie. Sorry, don't know why I said Melissa. Please connect with Melanie and yeah, get involved in that challenge, because it sounds amazing. If I was a woman, I'd be joining in there too, but I'm not.
You can't be everything.
Oh, well, I have dressed up for TV once, so there you go.
There you go.
So yeah, absolutely. Join the challenge, and it's going to transform your life. So I guarantee you that. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And as always, keep championing your life and build that champion mindset. And wish you an awesome Christmas and New Year's, and have an awesome day.